once over. I guess she knows she's got a good act, one of the best in the business. It isn't only our act that gets them. We've got personality. We know how to sell the stuff. Same way in the last town. Never heard such applause in your life. Let me tell you something that everybody around here don't know. We're only killing time with this circus. We've got bigger time to follow, and we can do it, too. Well, catch a act tomorrow night. We got something new.
You can do anything with eyebrow?
If you have a remote control, see, when that happens, you go to a different channel. And if you don't like that channel, you go to a different channel. And one of the reasons I can't own a TV is I've started having this thing where I've become convinced there's something really good on another channel and that I'm missing it. And so instead of watching, I'm scanning anxiously back and forth for this thing that I think I want that I don't even know what it is. And so I don't know whether German... Well, this is probably not a good thing to say on television, but I don't know whether a similar thing happens in Germany, but it's very stressful now. And what it is too much good stuff combined with my sick little head that thinks there's always something a little better on the next thing. And all you have to do, you don't have to get up now to change it. That was the problem. When it became easy, you just had to move your thumb and change it. That's when we were screwed.
So do you think it's...
90% of this is going to be cut out, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, okay.
I mean, not because I like it, but because, there's, of course...
Because it's not going to make any sense. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, do you think that entertainment, that everybody... I mean, is that entertainment something we have to fight against?
See, it's a strange question because who would say entertainment is bad? I mean, I wouldn't say entertainment is bad. But a model of life in which I have a right to be entertained all the time seems to me not to be a promising one, right? So... And this won't translate, but of course, one of the insidious things about it is that entertainment is so goddamn entertaining. So imagine this show were running on American TV, and I were sitting in this hotel watching it. Okay, we've got this pointy-headed, nerdy guy talking about this stuff, or I've got Pamela Anderson running on a beach, or a hilarious comedy. Which one am I going to watch? When I'm saying, there's no. If fighting against entertainment is even required, how does one do it unless... Well, there are two options. One is you direct the attack only to people who are willing to listen to the complexity, but those aren't the people who are enslaved by entertainment anyway. Or you find some way to make the attack on entertainment entertaining, in which case you've been captured by the very thing you're fighting against. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, that's exactly the dilemma.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Just that is different, but the topic is different now. So the Infinite Jest takes...
Well, if you're asking why it's in the book, the reason it's in the book is it's the one sport I knew well enough to be able to try to talk about why it was beautiful. And it's also a sport that has to do with two very bounded spaces and sending stuff back and forth between them, which has other stuff to do with the book. I think tennis is a very, very beautiful sport because it's very abstract and geometrical, and tactical like chess, and it's also very, very physical. There's a lot of running.
But is the entertainment in Infinite Jest and TV as it is in America today, is it somehow similar or?
Well, I don't know what you mean by TV. I mean, there's network TV, and there's cable TV, and there's satellite TV, where we can get 500 channels, and then there are movies and various things available on both tape and DVD. And so the phenomenon of TV, the stuff you can look at when looking at a TV is probably not all that dissimilar. My memory in Infinite Jest is that there was some complicated setup where they would sometimes broadcast things and then sometimes deliver it to you on a cartridge, and you would have to let me go look at that. I don't remember very well.
No, that's right.
I don't think there are things about the book that are not probably economically all that realistic. So.
Yeah, but it's just
important. But the fact that no one here is talking about the connection between how we live and what we drive, and the things that are happening, the speed with which it's become those bad people, those bad fanatics, they're evil. What they really hate is our freedom and our way of life, which is just hard to swallow, right? Like, who hates freedom? You know, people hate people, not freedom. I now don't know what's going to happen. And I am, as an American, as scared. Not since I was a little boy and I worried about the U.S. and the Soviet Union having an intercontinental number. Not since that have I been this scared. And this is totally personally, but I'm more scared of us than I am of anybody else. And that's a bleak place to be. I'm not sure how I feel about. Well, you're going to use it if you want. I don't think this is an evil country. I don't think American people are evil. I think we've had it very easy materially for a long time, and we've gotten very little help in understanding things that are important besides being comfortable. And I don't think anybody knows how we will react if things get really hard here. And the fact that we're strong militarily and economically is a good thing, but it's also a frightening thing. To some of us as Americans. So
and what kind of which is already almost.
Now I probably will. Well, luckily, yeah, not a lot of Americans will see this journey.
So what? Are there any means of rebellion?
Sure.
So, what would it be?
Well, there are people doing it all over the place. I don't know about people rappelling down buildings and getting tear gassed and stuff. The people I know who are rebelling meaningfully, don't buy a lot of stuff, and don't get their view of the world from television, and are willing to spend 4 or 5 hours researching an election. The thing about it is that in America we think of rebellion as this very sexy thing, and that it involves action and force and looks good. And my guess is the forms of rebellion that will end up changing anything meaningfully here will be very quiet and very individual, and probably not all that interesting to look at from the outside. I'm now hoping for less interesting rather than more interesting. Violence is interesting, and horrible corruption and scandals and rattling sabers and talking about war and demonizing a billion people of a different faith in the world. Those are all interesting. Sitting in a chair and really thinking about what this means and why the fact that what I drive might have something to do with how people in other parts of the world feel about me isn't interesting to anybody else. That was very close to
this visual thing and all this, and you said rebellion is supposed to be attractive, or people think, well, it's attractive to take you to a gun and to be this rebel, but that the true rebellion is not supposed to be attractive, because it just isn't. So how do we get rid of all this visual?
Yeah, it's weird to be saying this on television, but see, there's something about there's nothing wrong. It's not that there's anything wrong with being interested in stuff that's interesting and attractive. What it seems to me like here is that television and corporate entertainment, in order to make, because it's so expensive, in order to make money, it has to appeal to a very wide audience, which means it has to find things that a lot of people have in common. And I don't know about you, but here, I think what most of us have in common here are our very most base, uninteresting, selfish, stupid interests. Physical attractiveness, sex, a certain kind of easy humor, vivid spectacle. I mean, that stuff that I will immediately look at, and so will you, and so will you, and so will you, right? So it's in our very most base and kind of childish interests that we are a mass. The things that make us interesting and unique and human, those interests tend to be wildly different between different people. So my guess is, in terms of American mass culture as a mass, for things to get significantly different, what it's going to involve is fragmentation in the entertainment industry. When something like what's happened in the American magazine industry, where instead of 3 or 4 magazines with millions of subscribers, you have thousands of magazines, each with a few thousand. That is, if entertainment can get more niche-y, N-I-C-H-E is the English word, it's possible that these companies that put the stuff out can stay alive and make money without having to appeal to 10, 20 million people. Because I don't think it's evil. I think it's just the way that it works. The only way to get 10 or 20 million people all interested in the same thing is to pitch your appeal very, very low. Because maybe you're not interested in any of the things that I named, just immediately, but I am. I'm no different than anybody else. I really. There are a few people who aren't interested in it at all, but I am. We can choose to an extent what we worship, but the myth that we worship nothing and give ourselves away to nothing is simply sets us up to give ourselves away to something different. For instance, pleasure. Or drugs, or the idea of having a lot of money and being able to buy nice stuff. Or in the tennis academy, it's somewhat different. It's devotion to an athletic pursuit that requires a certain amount of sacrifice and discipline, but is nevertheless an individual sport, and one is trying to get ahead as an individual. I doubt this makes very much sense, but whatever the conditions of hopelessness you're talking about, at least in Infinite Jest, have to do, I think, with an American idea, and not a universal one, but one that I think kids get exposed to very early. That.
Absolutely, okay. And I'm not lying or something. I will tell you.
But I mean, you've spent time in the U.S. Is this some?
Yeah, but I think it's not only a problem in the U.S. because everything that happens here somehow is copied by by people in Germany, and there it's also this impulse that you only have to do what makes you happy and forget about all the others, and you don't want it to be with boring people who need you. And that's not attractive and all that. So it's it's more or less the same thing. So it makes sense to me, of course.
And it works very well as a system for running an economy and keeping goods produced and sold, and it works wonderfully. The ways in which it doesn't work are much more difficult to talk about.
So what would you said it's but what speaking of that, where doesn't it work?
One's reduced to talking, I think, about general terms like being grown up, or a term that's rarely used here anymore. And see, and now I feel embarrassment because I'm going to sound like my grandfather or something. But the word citizen, the idea of being a citizen, it would be to understand your country's history and the things about it that are good and not so good and how the system works, and taking the trouble to learn about candidates for political office, which means often reading stuff, which isn't fun. Sometimes it's boring. But when people don't do that,